All right. Thank you for attending this session on some of the lesser known Google apps. My name is Scott Dysart. I serve in SIL in Thailand and Southeast Asia at the Linguistic Institute of PIAP. We in SIL have access to the suite of Google apps. Some of them we're familiar with, email, Gmail, Google Drive. But after that, there are a lot of apps that we just don't use. And it may be that we're not using them because we generally don't feel there's not a need for them, or we're just not aware of them. So I thought I would take a little bit and show you what I've learned about some of these lesser apps. I'm going to attempt to present through a Google slide. I'm kind of experimenting in that my hope is that when I'm done with this, I'll slice and dice the video and then embed the video on the particular apps into the slide so people can look at it later. So the slide presentation, it looks unfinished because if I do it, it's not quite finished yet. But having said that, some of the things that we're going to look at are Google Meet, Google Earth, Google Sites, Forms, Keep, this thing called Jamboard. We'll look at a feature in Google Drive you may not be aware of. And then depending upon how much time we have left, we'll look at the Google Classroom and then some of the add-ons like Zoom that you can add into your Google apps, and also this thing called Trello. Chances are pretty high if you know about Trello, then that's exciting to you. If you're unfamiliar with it, then it's just something else interesting. So the question that comes up is, how do you get to these lesser known Google apps? Well, you can get them in really two ways. There's this menu option here next to your name and Gmail, and feel free to open up your own email and kind of poke around as we go along. I learn by poking, so if you want to poke while we're playing, while we're doing this, that's fine. So you can get into this Google Apps picker, and then you can slide up and down. Most of us have never scrolled down because we have Gmail, we have Google Drive, our account profile, and then we have these filters for different apps. Here's our calendar, some of us use that. But the further down you get to some interesting things that we're going to take a look at. So you can scroll up and down. And then also there's this sidebar. Some of you may or may not have noticed that they, as our Google extraordinaire has pointed out, that this thing is referred to as the waffle, which is a lot better sounding than Google Apps Picker. So we'll go with waffle. I want my syrup though. There's the Google sidebar here, and we have our Gmail admins have added some plugins. There is the Zoom suite for G Suite we'll get into, and then there are some of these others, Keep, Tasks, and another way of getting into Contacts. So those are the two ways of getting to some of these lesser known apps. And we're going to scroll down, and we're going to try something that I'm going to attempt to demonstrate Google Meet from inside Zoom. So this may be a catastrophe, but we'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. So Google Meet, I'm going to bring it over into the screen I'm sharing. So this is Google Meet, and I'm looking, so you can see a bad view of me because I've got two cameras rolling. But this is Google Meet, and it'll see it has a lot of the basic functionality of your basic Zoom. You can invite people. I've got two people in this call right now. I've got myself on my phone. Actually, this is me on my phone. That's the camera we're looking at. Oh, it's interesting. All right, so we've got, you can invite people. You can have comments. You can use the raising hand feature. You can turn on captions. I've not done that. You can share your screen. You also have this thing over here, this activity. You have breakout rooms. If you're familiar with Zoom, we know about the breakout rooms, same idea. You can do polls. I'm going to start a poll. You can ask, what's best with peanut butter? You might say raisins, bananas, or you can add another option. Don't look at my spelling. I can't spell. But I use spell check. We're familiar with spell check. That works. Or then what's with you Americans and peanut butter? Then you can click save, and then you have it, and you can keep adding polls. Down you go, and then you launch them. Unfortunately, I don't know of a way of creating a poll outside of the Meet and then importing it in. So that seems to be a limitation. I'm not sure if Zoom can do that. Maybe it can. So then I can just launch the poll, and then launch the poll, And then, oh, I was reminded of a limitation with these polls in Meet. I have an Android phone. Google is behind Android. Guess which operating system cannot operate polls? Android. So if you're on an Android phone attending a Google Meet, you can't take part in any polls. That was a surprise to me, but you can on iOS. Yeah, interesting. So I'm going to cancel it. I'm going to end the poll because my participant can't do it. Limitations with Meet, in addition to not being able to do Android polls, you cannot record. So that's a limitation. So it's like intended to be like a one-off. Let's meet now. We're not going to save it for later kind of thing, whereas you can do with Zoom. For example, with this Zoom call, I'm recording it. I'm going to put it in YouTube so people can watch it later. We can't do that with Google Meet. As our Google expert pointed out, you can't look at your history to see what meetings you've attended in the past. If it's in your calendar, you can, but you can't. There's no log of Google Meet. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I failed to mention that at the beginning. I'm sorry for that. So this is Google Meet. You'll see it looks very similar to basic Zoom. So it's there. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of this Google Meet. And now we're going to go down to forms. Oh, I wanted to show you in the apps picker or the waffle, just because it's in the apps picker or the waffle doesn't mean you have access to it. It is, for example, you go down here to cloud search. That's not enabled. So you can see it, but you can't use it. There are things that are like that. Not very many, but there are some. So I'm going to close out of that. We're going to go back to, we did Google Meet. Now we're going to go to forms. So again, in the waffle, down here are forms. It likely is not you have filled out a form, but I'm going to show you quickly how you can create a form. Google Forms. All right, so in your account, these are all the forms. My email account here only has one form. So you can click the plus button to create a new form, or you can go through some of their templates so you can see what you want. I'm going to open this form that I've already been working on. And you can ask questions, multiple choice answers. You can put in pictures, any one of these little things you can put in, text boxes, you're more familiar with that. You can add a question. So I only have one question. I can click a box here, add a question. Question goes down here, then I can change the option type. So it's a checkbox. And then you can ask question. I'm very original. And then you just keep rolling down, filling out your form. And then when you are done with your form, you can click the send button, and you have the option of sending it to a person via email, or you can shorten the link and you can copy paste that, send it in the email. Most of us have received forms like this in our SIL experience. One of the nice things about forms is that it will take your responses and put them in a spreadsheet. So you can see here in my responses, I've got one response. No responses to the second question, because I haven't sent it out with that question. And I can click on this little button to say view response in a sheet. If I haven't already clicked that button, then I would have the option to creating a Google Sheet. So I'm going to click this button, and it brings up the Google Sheet with my response. So you see my no, I do not like my hat. So I'm going to, on my Android phone, I've got the form already up, bringing it in my email. Fill out. I said, hey, I've invited you to fill out my form. That's my text. You can add text to the document. Filling out form. And I actually sent this survey to my person before I put in the second question. But now the second question is in the form, because when they click on the link, it actually goes to the Google form itself. So I can even realize, as I often do, realize I made a spelling error. So I can actually edit the spelling error so that the next person who sees the form will not see the spelling error. Or I can realize the question wasn't quite right, or I'm not getting the information I want. I can go in and I can update the form on the fly. Then future recipients of the answers of the form will get it. So I'm going to answer yes, I do like your hat, and I'm going to pick question 1 and question 2, or answer 1 and answer 2 on the question. Go back and what is this? Get out of the way. You can now see that the Google spreadsheet has already been answered or filled in with my new answers. So let's go back to the form. You can now see I have 2 responses. And then with Google Sheet, once it's in a Google Sheet, then you can do all kinds of analytics with it that we're not going to get into now. But if you're like me, you kind of nerd out on Google Sheets or on Excel, you can imagine the fun you can have with forms and responses and things. So that is Google Form. All right. So the next thing down are Google Sites. Google Sites are a quick way to make a website. Google. All right. So again, this is you click on, you get to Google Sites by getting on the waffle, and then here is Sites. And then, so here we are. I only have one. Again, you can click on the plus button to make a blank one, or you can go through some of their templates. I'm going to open this example site, what I've been working on. And again, one of the nice things about Google Sites is it's very what you see is what you get. So you can add modules and components with layout. And so you can use Google Site to make your front end. And because it's tied to Google, you can use your Google Drive as your content management, as your backend. So provided the sharing is set right, you can have a video or text or content in Google Drive, set it up to where Google Sites can show it. So in this example, you can see I have actually, and this is kind of nice, my Google site, I've added something from Google Drive. I've added my form, or my survey, my form. And I added this prior to my second question being added to the form. So now Google Sites has already updated, because it's pulling from content in Drive. As that thing gets updated, your Google site gets updated. So that's quite nice. So you can click on this button over here. You can click on Drive, and then you can add things. I'm going to show you 2 examples of a couple examples of Google Sites. This is the master's, the MA program at PyApp. This is actually being built, I believe, on a Google site, even though it doesn't say Google up here. It's actually redirected around. But this is managed by Google Sites, so you can make it. And it looks kind of nice. This is our Lunch and Learn, where we, prior to putting our videos up on YouTube, we made a Google site that had access to all our videos. And if I had this set up right, I'm going to show you what this looks like in the background. This is what the person sees when they look at the Lunch and Learn site. This is what the manager sees. As you can see, the same thing, you can add things, all these links, I can edit them, I can change them, I can publish them, I can control who collaborators. So right now, these people have collaboration access to this site. I can publish it, I can make a change, I can publish it live. You have unpublished, you can take it back, you can preview, you can do all sorts of things with it. So I'm going to close this. So this is Google Sites. And if you're interested in Google Sites and how to set up a website, we can set up time to show you how to do this. This is not something that I can show you how to do in like 3 minutes, maybe 15, but certainly not 3. So this is Google Sites. Next is Google Keep. And we are right here. So some of you may be familiar with an application called Evernote, the idea of storing notes on your phone or on another device, and you have an account with something called like Evernote, and then that is shared across multiple devices. So you can be typing a note on your phone with Evernote, and it syncs up to the cloud, and then you go to evernote.com or whatever the website is, log in with your account, and then you can see your notes. That's the basic idea of Evernote. Keep is very much the same idea. So you can make notes, you can make checklists. So this is my Google Keep. So I just got some interesting things that you can do. So you can make a note, and I'm going to call it, let's say I'm attending a very interesting meeting. This is my meeting. And then lots of notes from my meeting. action items. It's a good meeting. Things to do. We come to the meeting, we had an agenda set, we knew what we were going to do, and then we agreed at the end, these are the things we're going to do. So now I have a note, and I can actually tie this note to my calendar. Remind me tomorrow at 8 a.m., for example. I can add people to my note. I can make color, I can add images, like this is an image. I can add images to my note. You can archive it, you make it go away. And one other thing you can do, which is kind of cool, is you can copy this to your Google Docs. So now it's going to take the notes from your meeting. Let's say it's kind of an on-the-fly meeting, and this notes are actually the genesis, or the contains all your great ideas from your meeting. So you can copy it to Google Docs, and let's copy. You have the option to open it in open in Google Doc. So this is my note. So all that text from the note are right here. So let's say a week later, we're meeting again, and now we're using this doc as the source of the next meeting. It's driving the meeting. I can make a new note, and I can say, meeting 2. We did these things. Lots of happiness. So you can click on done. So I can go back to Google Notes, and now or Google Keep, sorry. And now my note is here, and you can see that it's linked because I had that note open. Oops, sorry. Close that. We had the Google Doc open when I made the note. Google Docs knows that the note's tied to the document, and I can click on the link, and it'll bring it back up. So it's just an easy way to link it back and forth. And I can go back here, and something interesting you can do here is, let's say you can actually take the contents of that second meeting, that second note, and you can add it to the doc. Probably should have put my cursor where I wanted it to go. Add to document. Yeah, okay. If you put the cursor in the right spot, then the text will be added right where it's supposed to go. So that's something neat you can do with this. So if I look at my calendar for tomorrow, where did my note? Did I not put the note? Where did my note? Tomorrow at 8 a.m. That's supposed to show up in Google Calendar. But of course, I think I closed calendar. Seeing as how I'm in a demonstration, and you can do calendar with the sidebar. Seeing as how I'm in a demonstration, it didn't show up right. There's supposed to be a reminder, nice little finger with a bow on it to remind you how to do something, to do something. Let's see if we can get into the calendar directly. That's the other one. A week. Oh, okay, there it is. It just took it a second to show up. So this is a reminder that I added to that note. Other notes you can do, like I have a shopping list. I had things to add, and one of my colleagues said that they actually use this keep feature as a running shopping list between he and his wife. So she will add things to the shopping list, and he will add things to the shopping list. And when he buys his loaf of bread, he'll check it, and the stick of butter and the milk. And so there's collaborators. So the collaborator, I can have this on my phone, and got it. Yeah, close this. So the person you're seeing it with or sharing it with can see it. Yeah, so this is notes. Okay, so next thing down was Jamboard. Now, Jamboard, I'm going to close these things. That one. Jamboard really facilitates a process. So if when you think of Jamboard, if you are been in meetings where there are flip charts, big white pieces of paper and pads, and sticky notes all over the place, this is what Jamboard is intended to do. You can, I'm going to open up, again, you can get the Jamboard in the waffle, get back here, by going down, scrolling down, and clicking on Jamboard. And again, feel free to play around as I'm talking. Again, I learned these things by poking around. So this is Jamboard. You can see they've got things that resemble sticky notes. You can't call them post-it notes because that's trademarked. You can click here, sticky note. You can add a note, really new note. See, I am not original. And you can change colors. Let's say I want to be blue today. And save. So there's my really new note. It assumes I'm adding more. So if you got a rapid fire brain idea, people are just throwing out things. Thing 2, save. Thing 3, save. So it's trying to mimic the person on the whiteboard just drawing and writing rapidly. So it's cancel that, we're done. And now you can, let's say now you're trying to organize things. You can move these things around, kind of say it's group them by color because these colors had a meeting. We did blue for something, yellow for something else. You can drag them around, you can move them over. You can also insert shapes. Like I have this circle here. Let's say you have a shape and you want to show things, how things relate. And as an example, you can kind of make the shape bigger. And you can say this, while these are blue, thing 3, relates to this orange thing. And, this yellow thing kind of relates. And this yellow thing also relates, but we're grouping all the yellow things together. So really, if you're in those sticky notes and flowcharts, then this is just an electronic way of doing that. You can also draw on the flowchart. So you can circle, like this is a great idea. I wanted to demonstrate, so I've already got your Android phone, Android at least I know has a Jamboard app. So you can have Jamboard up. You can have multiple people in the Jamboard, like in a remote settings where not everybody's together. And I'm going to move on my phone. I'm going to move that Jamboard sticky. If I can get it to go, I'll get the edit button. Oh, I want the back up here. That one. Okay, now I can move it. So you can't really tell that I'm moving it on my phone, but I'm moving it on my phone. And I can move things around. So you can have multiple people in multiple locations accessing the thing. So you can have a Zoom meeting set up where you're sharing the or Google Meets, whichever one, set up where you're sharing the Jamboard, and people are just moving around and writing things. So this is Jam, and you can add more background. You can add more Jam slides as you go. Like this is topic A, topic B. So here's a plus button. You can create they're called frames apparently. You can create a new frame. You can let's give it. Oh, you can erase. You can add a sticky note. Frame 2. To save. All right, and then you can just keep going to add frames as you move along. Again, this is really intended to facilitate a process. So I'm just letting you know that it's there. Okay. The next thing down is something your Google Drive. It's a thing in Google Drive you may not be familiar with. It's called Shared Drive. I'm going to open up. Here's my Shared Drive. All right. So you're familiar with Google Drive, but Google Drive has a hard cap of 30 gigabytes of space, and that also includes your emails. We'll get into the complications of that in a little bit. And also, you have an owner of a thing. So if I'm on a team and I create a document, but then I move to a new project, or let's say I decide to move on in life, and then they delete my Google account, you have a problem of ownership of the documents. So it gets into an ownership problem. So a way around that ownership problem of who owns a document, and especially if people roll on, roll off teams, is through a shared drive. There's on your left in your Google Drive, underneath my drive are shared drives. And right now I have only one shared drive, and anybody with a Google Apps and SIL anyway can make a Google Drive. You just shared drive. You just right click and click New Shared Drive. My other shared drive. Again, I tell you, I'm very original. And you can add people to your shared drive, and then you have permissions. So you can manage members. So right now, my shared drive has 2 accounts, 2 people. I can add more people, and I can control who they are. Manager is a person who manages the drive. A contributor can add, but I can't add people. There's also content manager, a manager, or sorry, I'm going the other way around. Commenter, I can look at documents, but I can comment on them, but I can't edit them. And then a viewer can't even comment. And the beauty of this is that as team members roll on, roll off, you can remove them from the team. And also importantly, the organization owns these documents as far as Google is concerned. So the 30 gigabyte limit that you see doesn't include shared drives. In my IT role, I have generated some fairly large documents, or actually one of my projects has been to digitize some audio cassettes that are very old for purpose of archiving, and I'm sharing them with a team member who is in the United States. So I've actually made a shared drive to contain all those audio files, and then he can access them, because that would blow up my 30 gig easily, but we can put them in shared drive and it doesn't matter. So this is shared drive, and again, you can make any document you want can go in shared drive. So I can go in my shared drive, and these are some documents. I can actually go to my drive. I can scroll down here, and I should be able to, that jam I just made, I can move this if I wanted to shared drive, shared with me. Actually, yeah, shared drive, sorry. My shared drive, and move here. So now I'm just moving that one at random, but if it were a big file, like an uploaded document, I can move it to the shared drive from my Google Drive, and it won't count against my space. So that is Google Drive, or shared drive. Again, I'm moving rather rapidly through these things because there's a lot of stuff I want to show you. And if you want more information about a particular thing, I'm happy to show it. But just kind of like the in passing, these are some interesting things. Since we're in Google Drive, I wanted to talk about something that isn't necessarily a lesser known apps thing, but it's something that affects your Google. And since we're here, this is a good time to talk about it. Starting on January 1, Google is reevaluating, or is changing the way it accounts your storage. Historically, anything non-Google Drive, anything that's other than a non-native drive file, counts against your storage. So we are a report happy organization. So anytime you generate a report and send it to somebody via email, it counts in their storage because it's an attachment. Anytime you put a report, like a Word document with lots of lovely pictures and things in Google Drive, the owner of the file, it counts against them. So if I upload a 2 megabyte Word document, let's make it a 20 megabyte Word document because it has lots of pictures. It's a great report. Everybody loves it, but it's huge at 20 megabytes for a Word document. Those 20 megabytes will count against my storage, but they won't account against everybody I share with. So I can't, bomb you with stuff to squeeze you out of space. So for many of us, this won't be much of an issue, but for some of us, it will be an issue. And some of the ramifications of running up against your 30 gigabyte space cap is you won't be able to send, probably the most immediate hit is that you will not be able to send email. You will not be able to receive email. You will not be able to upload things into Google Drive. And when it comes to email, some of you might be thinking, let me fill this thing up quickly, but that would be cheating. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to check to see how much, where your big things are. So in this account I created this account for this particular presentation, and I've uploaded a bunch of stuff. I made it some folders, and already I'm at 4.3 gigabytes out of 30. Come January 1, this account itself will not have any problem, but I wanted to show you some of the things. So I can click on storage, and this shows me all of the files in list form, not in hierarchy of structure, because I had too many folders for me to go look and find files, but it'll show me in list form what files I have up here. And if I were at 20, 25 gigabytes of space already being used, I would want to look and see, well, that zip file, I don't even know what that is. I don't need that anymore. I can download that, or this paratext file. Actually, I can think, yeah, I put that up in, I put these two files in YouTube already. I don't need to worry about that. So I can delete them. So you can prune stuff from Google Drive that you don't need, or you can think, I do need to keep that. Let's make a shared drive called storage, and I'm just going to shove all this stuff that I need to keep in storage, and that works until they put a cap on shared drive, but they're not there yet. So another thing that comes into play for Google Drive storage is your email. So if you are like me and you save email forever, you never delete them, any email that's got an attachment in your forever ago email is going to count against this storage cap. And again, if you are down at 10 gigabytes out of 30, you don't need to worry about it. But if you're pushing 25 to 30, then it's time to do some pruning. So you can go into your email and you can search. Here's a little down arrow. You can size greater than 3 megabytes, just for example, and click search. Because let's say I've got a huge structure full of emails, of folders where nested in. Gmail has done a search for me, and it's looked through all of my emails and found all the emails that are larger than 3 megabytes. And in which case, this one here is one of those. So then I can look and see, do I really need to keep this attachment with the email? Do I need to keep the attachment at all? If I need to keep the attachment, can I download it? Can I put it in a shared drive? Can I do something else with it? Does it need to sit in my email? So that's something to consider. And what I don't know about this change is going to happen is they're actually going to start counting Google native files. By that I mean anything you generate in Google Drive itself, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Forms. All those are going to begin to count, and I don't know how they're going to count, but the rule of thumb we've been given is if you're at 75% of your storage, you may have a problem and you need to start pruning some stuff. I have included in this presentation a link to a document that our email admin people have generated. And when I send this link out to this video, I'll include this link directly in the email so you can get an idea of what to do and how to search it. I meant to say, I shouldn't have said January 1. I should have said June 1, 2021, as in, today's April, I can do this, April, May, June, as in 2 months. That changes in 2 months. So that is the storage thing. So you can also, I'm going to attempt to do this on the fly. Did I do this? I'm going to go to Google Drive again. I think you can search in Google Drive also for, no, apparently you can't search in Google Drive for size. Well, I guess this click on storage feature does that, so why that would be redundant. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so that is Google Drive, a shared drive, but also a little sidebar on the issue with storage that's coming up. And I will send, as in my IT role, I'll send more information out to MSCA Broad on what to do with that. But I wanted to show it here since we're here. All right. So the next thing is I wanted to show is Google Earth. And I think I am showing this just because I think it's really cool. And I've come up with a couple potential work-related uses for this. If you're doing some sort of promotion that involves geography, if you're saying I work in these areas and it's safe to share where you work, you can use Google Earth to do some geography. So again, Google Earth is found again in the waffle. You can scroll down and you can find Google Earth here. I've already got it up. And you can make what are known as projects. So I've already created a project, and I wanted to show you this project to show you what you can do with Google Earth. This is kind of innocuous. When I was poking around, I wanted to have a project that kind of show where my family liked to go camping. So I'm going to click on this project, and I'm going to present. And you guys should see this. And present. So now we start out with Doi Pui Campground. I can click on the more info button and I can, click the arrows. This is information pulled from Google Earth. People have uploaded curated pictures. So I'm going to get out of that. And then I have my table of contents in my presentation. So I'm going to scroll to the next one. We're going to go up, and sorry for motion sickness people, up and over and down to Mok Fa. This is a lovely campground. My family went. We stayed the night. There's a nice little waterfall just up the way, and it's beautiful. You can then scroll around a little bit. There's the guard shack. Actually, we're up way around, and yeah. And so we're going to keep going. We're going to go to Opkan. The guys in our organization spent an afternoon here, or a day here once on a retreat. It was a beautiful place. You can click on these little icons to get the information that's there. Then we're going to go to Hoi Tung Tao, the lake up to the north. And you can see here's some pictures. I've got a description of the place, Hoi Tung Tao, and I've got a blurb for my family. It's a nice place. The lake is fun. You can eat on the lake boats, but there are a lot of dogs. They're perfectly safe. They run the place. They just let us be there, but they get loud at night, so it's not so much fun for camping. But it's close, and if you need green, that's a lovely place to go. Hoi Tung Tao. Some other things you can do with Google Earth is you can highlight an area. So I've highlighted a neighborhood. This is Kwanryong 2. And you can zoom in. You can put the person on if you wanted to. So you can have lots of areas highlighted in the map. And if you zoom out further, you can make an area that's a lot bigger. So you can put the whole enclosed Chiang Mai if you wanted to. Another thing that I found to be fun is you can go to a location, switch to street view, and then you can capture an image. Watch this. We're going to go up. We're going to go to Henry Luce Chapel. Up and over and down, a nice soft landing on the street. And if I'd have done it better, this would have gone to the front opening of the chapel, but I didn't. But you can't zoom around, so it captured this image is what it's done, and so it kind of stuck here. But that's kind of cool. So I'm going to show you quick how to add a thing. They're called features. So where's my note? Project, new feature, add place mark. Scroll down right here. Pie up front door. I'm going to put camping locations just because. So now I have a new location to my project. And then I can share. Like I've shared this project with some people, so they can look and they can see, and so you can make a presentation out of it. You can share to edit, you can share to view, just like any other Google Doc. So this is Google Project. Unfortunately, or Google Earth. Unfortunately, you can't save as video, but I think you can get around that by sharing it in Google Zoom, by opening up in Google Zoom, running through it while recording the screen and adding your own verbiage over top. And that's how you can get video out of it. That's as close as I can come to it. All right. So that is Google Earth. Any questions here so far? All right. So we have a few minutes left. The next thing I wanted to show you, I don't know a lot about, but I wanted to show that it is. It's called Google Classroom. And I know that our linguistic department and some other schools have used Google Classroom to facilitate the online learning during the whole COVID, and the department is still using it now, I think. And it is available to us as SIL members in our Google Apps suite, but it's not enabled by default. So you have to turn it on. So, so I had to request the Google Apps people to have it turned on. This is me. This is my, so I've created a class, got it, called lesser known Google Apps. And I've added a classmate to it. I've added, I don't need that one. I've added, this student is my class, they're attending my class. I can add work. I can click here. I can add or create work. I can mark it as done. I can add or create, which means I can upload files. So if the assignment was to do a project, you can upload the file and send it in. So it's a way of facilitating the sending and receiving of homework. If you're in a school setting, it's the way the student would turn in their homework. I think this might be of interest to us in, like if you have a long workshop, a several-day workshop or a several-day seminar, you can use this as a way to facilitate the sending in of projects or of sharing or providing assignments, especially if it's, now I'm going to show you a thing, then you're going to go and do a thing, and then you can record the doing a thing here. So I wanted to show you that it is, and that we have access to it, and I'm asking some of our teachers who use it if they'd be willing to give some more in-depth discussion on how it's used. Like, again, I'm showing you, I'm poking around with it, but they actually use it day in, day out. They know some of the pitfalls, some of the good things. Or actually, those of you who have kids in schools here in this area who have used it, you just say, hey, show me how to use this thing. And they can certainly show it to you from a student perspective. So this is Google Classroom. All right. The next thing on are really just the sidebar. Oh, I wanted to show, I failed. These sidebars over here in your documents. This is where your notes, I think I showed this for the notes. This is where all your notes are. So when a note is done, let's say this is done, you can delete it. You can delete, or you can archive, just makes it go away. Tasks, those of you who like tasks, if you're a task list, if you're make a list of people, if you're a person who likes to write down things and do them, you can add tasks, and this will integrate to your calendar. I personally just like write them on a piece of paper, but this is there if you're interested in it. So you can add a task. You can say session on Google Apps, and then you can add a new task. You can go edit video, add a task, and just keep working down. And then you can date, you can add, and you check mark it when it's done, and it rolls through. And then it shows up in your calendar as a task. So I wanted to show you the Zoom taskbar, or sidebar, and also Trello. So I'm going to go back to email. I'm going to close this. Over here is the Zoom for G Suite. This is a thing that our Gmail admin people have added because they know that a lot of us use Zoom for meetings. You can click, if you're in your email, you can click on it. And all of us, by virtue of being an SIL, we have access to a free Zoom meeting suite that gets you 45 minutes with I don't know, a lot of people for 45 minutes. And you can just click on a meeting and you can start one. And what that'll do is it'll launch the Zoom app on your phone or on your computer. Another way this helps is if I go to calendar up, sorry. I tried to start a Zoom meeting from inside a Zoom meeting. That's always fun. If I'm in my calendar, let's go to a month. Let's say tomorrow at 11 o'clock, Zoom meeting. It's not all day. It starts at 11. That's 1 o'clock because we're here. You can click on add video conferencing, Zoom, and it will or should, again, embed the Zoom information. Then I can add guests. You have the sidebar over here for for in the encryption in some of the rooms, like enhanced encryption, those sorts of things. You can turn off waiting room, turn on waiting room. Then you can add your guests and you can save it. And now the Zoom meeting is in your calendar. It's got the Zoom links. Then anybody you've invited through the invitation process can click on it, and then they can join the meeting. Or you can open up your calendar. Hey, I've got a Zoom meeting at 1 o'clock. Click on the link, and there you are. That's the Zoom sidebar. Anybody who has a SIL provisioned Gmail address will have that. So just kind of making it a little easier. Where did I save it? Okay, so the last thing I wanted to show is Trello. And Trello, again, is just a thing that facilitates a process. Those of the software developers here are often using Trello. It's a good way to manage tasks across teams. Hey, I'm going to do this, you're going to do that. It's kind of managing workflow. These are the things I've got to do. These are the things that are in the way from my doing the thing I want to do. Trello kind of provides provisions a way to do it. So I added I went to Trello in my email address, and I started up this template. I logged in, and this is a basic, it gives you an idea what it's supposed to do. I jokingly say that it looks a lot like, oh, I'm drawing a blank now, but there's a card game on the computer, that solitaire, I guess, looked a lot like solitaire from a distance, like the people are playing solitaire. So you can move you can move cards. You can, of course, I can't right now, but apparently you can move things around. Of course, it's not doing it right now. Oh, create board from template. Okay, that's because I didn't actually make it. So now it's the board. This is my board. So I can invite people. I can move this task to, this is a project resource or questions for the meeting. Okay, I can say that's pending. We're still thinking about that. So this is a visual way to encapsulate the discussions that people have had. So this is Trello. If it's something that interests you as a product, you have access to a free version of Trello. And again, I can show you how it works, or I can arrange for one of the software developers to give 10, 15 minutes to show you how it works. And so, yeah, so you can add more lists, and you can just move things to the end. A lot of some of the meetings I attend, they're actually driven by a Trello board, and they just, when the meeting happens, they just kind of work down the list of things in the meeting, and it can contain the Google YouTube links, or contain the Google Doc links, it contain whatever. So yeah, that is Trello. Wow, that is a fast hour. So these are some of the lesser known, at least in our organization, Google apps. I just thought that some of you might like to know that some of them exist. Not everything scratches an itch for everybody, but some people will like them. Like if you want to make using Google Forms, or if you want to make a simple website, Google Sites is there. The notes, the Google Meet. Anybody who has Google has access to Google Meet, so you can share that way. We have a few minutes left. Any questions? Let me pull up the chat. You can pop them in the chat if you wish.